Steven Universe just ended! Yay! I do think that while I liked the show, it was the correct time for it to end as all the conflicts of the show had been settled. And I think at this point going on with it wouldn't have done any favors to the show, but I'm still going to miss it. Actually, this video is probably going to get very, very personal because I'm going to be talking about why this show is so important to me. I know that the show gets a bad rap sometimes for inconsistencies and just all kinds of things. And I definitely don't think that it's a perfect show either. But I do think that it does what it set out to do, which is looking pretty and having representation and a lot of important messages about emotion and identity and all that jazz. People started recommending this show to me when I was maybe in 7th or 8th grade, so about 14 years old. I was very emotionally immature and having a very difficult time dealing with my feelings about myself, my surroundings, my identity, and also my sexuality. I honestly think that the Finnish sex education failed me. I hear that it's much, much better than in many other countries. I hear that on average the sex ed in, for example, the US is really, really bad. And it's crazy that there are still people in Finland too who think that sex ed shouldn't exist. It sort of pisses me off. But yeah, I'm not sure whether the basic sex ed we were given covered different sexualities. If it did, then I didn't notice, because still in 7th grade I did not know what a gay was. I just thought that it was some sort of a bad thing because people were using it as an insult. I remember that before I even watched Steven Universe, I saw a clip of Pearl and Garnet's fusion, and I actually commented on that video something along the lines of, which one of them is the male? Because I just had no concept of homosexuality. And that was screwing me up because I thought that the only sexuality that exists is heterosexuality. And because everyone my age at the time was going through puberty, they were all over the place with that. I actually still wrote in a diary during that time, and looking back at the things that I wrote, I was confused about it. I thought that it was strange that everyone was acting that way. It's surreal reading those passages because one passage I'm wondering if I'm not trying hard enough to like boys, and then another passage is 2 pages of me just rambling on about how a girl's lip gloss smelled so good that I wasn't able to think of anything else and did bad on my math test because of how distracted I was by it. But around this time I began to watch Steven Universe. At first I thought that it was really boring and probably wouldn't have continued watching if I hadn't been so bored. Once I had watched maybe 5 episodes, I had already been convinced that I actually did like the show. I especially liked Pearl because I found her very relatable. At the time, I also thought that eating food was disgusting. I was also quite noisy and easily frightened. I even thought that I maybe looked a bit like her, like we had a similar build. And I believe that being able to relate to Pearl so much significantly helped me pull myself out of the hole that I had dug for myself during 6th and 7th grade. See, I didn't like myself. I had been so incredibly confident with myself beforehand and frankly done many really stupid things because of that. And then all the regret and embarrassment of those times hit me in the span of a couple of months. I had trouble fitting in and stopped talking to everyone except a few people because I was afraid. I once entered school and saw that I was 5 minutes late for class, and I just broke down crying in the bathroom and was still crying when everyone got out of class like an hour later. In hindsight, I had some issues that needed tending to. At one point, my sister teased me about liking a boy, and the next day in class I had a massive breakdown. What struck me about Pearl was that she wasn't exactly a good person. She made a lot of mistakes and did, frankly, some terrible things. She was petty and jealous, and she would break down crying. And she wasn't perfect, yet she was always forgiven. Stephen still loved her. That, among other things, helped me forgive my own mistakes and helped me be more comfortable with expressing what I was going through. It was okay to cry. The people in the show cried all the time. Then I was hit with the representation of the show and I realized that, oh heck, that is me. That's what I am. That explains a lot. And that was like yet another punch in the face. Because see, I already had trouble accepting myself, and now there was this new thing. This gay. It was a relief to understand myself, but at the same time I felt guilty about it. The thing about Steven Universe is that it doesn't treat people of different sexualities any differently. It doesn't even bring sexuality up, it just shows that it exists. In large part, due to this show, I was able to become more comfortable with the concept of different sexualities and, as a result, with myself. I was able to become more comfortable with my emotions and more critical of me hating myself. I wish that I hadn't needed Steven Universe to help me with all of those things. I think that it should have been a professional or my parents, but in the end, I was able to break the walls that I had built around myself, come out to my parents as well as anyone else who would listen, and finally see a professional and discuss how I'd gotten in such a bad place in the first place. I was able to grow with the characters of this show, to become a better version of myself, to build an identity and to be more confident. Now that the show has just ended, I've gotten out of upper secondary and will be heading off to university, hopefully. As I said before, this show is not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. To me, it was everything that it needed to be. It was there for me and I don't think I need it anymore. But I am happy that it was a crutch for me when I needed it. Yeah. Thank you.